So it's been a really interesting start to the year, to say the least. We've seen very volatile markets, and to better understand what brought this volatility, we actually need to go back to early 2021, when central banks around the world were convinced that inflationary pressures that were just starting to build were transitory in nature because they were mostly caused by supply shocks, and that raising interest rates in this environment would do little to counter this trend. So they decided to keep interest rates low. So fast forward to today, and it's clear now that central banks understand that while supply shocks have played an important role on higher prices, the change in our pattern of consumption during the pandemic, from consuming fewer services to consuming more goods, has also had an important impact on higher prices, and that higher rates are necessary to rebalance supply and demand and bring down inflation. So in this environment, we really like NSSB because of its lower sensitivity to rising rates through its shorter duration, while also providing an interesting yield to maturity of close to 3.5% through its exposure to short-term corporate bonds, which also happen to have a much lower carbon intensity when compared to the benchmark. NSSB also offers an exposure to sustainable bonds, which we define as use of proceeds bonds having a tangible positive environmental or social impact. So this defensive positioning in NSSB should bode well for what we think will be a very volatile second half to the year. We think that central banks will want to rapidly bring overnight rates closer to the neutral rate, which we estimate at around 2.5% in Canada, and hope that inflation will meanwhile trend lower. So if this is not the case, central banks will have no other choice than to slow down the economy through even higher short-term rates to bring inflation back to its 2% target. So follow the evolution of inflation, which should be a good guide to the direction of interest rates, and keep in mind that if inflation stays higher than the overnight rates, central banks will need to continue raising rates. So thank you for listening, and good luck.